ultimate aim of all science, to penetrate the unknown. The greatest mystery is right here, right under our feet. These are the stories that will make you say, WTF.
Rumors have been circulating for years now that the American military killed a creature which was 3 times the size of a normal man. A living giant. The giant was supposedly 15 feet tall, and was killed by the American military in the Kandahar region, while troops were looking for a missing patrol unit. In 2002 a US patrol had gone missing in a remote area of the Afghanistan mountains. A special operations group was sent in to locate the lost patrol. The story is described by Mr. K, a contact operator from the Special Ops Group. In his own words,
"We were flown in and dropped at 4 clicks or kilometers from the checkpoint, where the patrol group was supposed to check in, called the rally point. We began our search through the same area the patrol group had last radioed in from. Before we left base camp, there was all kinds of questions of, what happened? Were they ambushed? And that was odd, because at the point of ambush, you would call for close air support, something, but nothing, no distress call ever came in from the missing patrol. They have completely fallen off grid to us. So as we begin our search, we're descending down a fairly steep mountainside, and came to a nice open goat path. Just wide enough for us to walk in tight 2x2, so not very wide. As we came around a bend in the mountain, we saw what looked like the remnants of a bear cave up ahead of us. There were scattered bones around the entrance, from what we assumed to be deer, or other wildlife, and a very bad odor emanating from the cave. When we got closer there were pieces of our radio communications equipment all over the ground, smashed into pieces. We knew right then it was one of ours. So instantly we're thinking, ambush. Maybe animal, you know, could be anything at this point. As we approached the mouth of the cave, the smell of death was almost unbearable. We were on high alert as we approached the cave entrance. I think we were all waiting for a 300-pound bear to charge from the cave. There was a steep cliff edge behind us, just opposite of the cave opening. Suddenly, out of nowhere, this huge man at least 12 to 15 feet tall came rushing out of the cave. He had long stringy red hair past his shoulders, and a dirty red beard. Scarlet red. Once he emerged from the cave, we could all see it was a man. Dan started running at him and starts shooting, which broke all of us into the reality, while Dan is moving towards the giant. We all started laying down a line of fire. He reached forward with his huge arm, and skewers Dan straight through his chest, and lifted Dan above his head still on this pike. It went through Dan instantly. He was extremely strong. He's now got Dan stuck to his pike, and he's coming for more. I remember we were all screaming, shoot him in the face. He was taking multiple shots, and still coming at us. Finally the piercing bullets to his eyes and face. He just stopped, stood very still for a moment, and went down. We continued to unload our weapons into the giant creature for the next 30 seconds. We unloaded about 150 rounds. This all took place in less than a minute. Eventually, the giant was dead. Dan was DOA at the scene. Dan had died instantly from the pike piercing his heart straight through. Inside the cave, the remains, or what was left of them, of the lost patrol group were found. They were all deceased. The giant had apparently been eating them. We called in and requested a medevac team for Dan, ASAP, and reported what we had seen and what had happened. They told us to remain in place, and make sure the giant does not get up again. Almost as if they were expecting our call. They didn't seem shocked by the claim of a giant. This worried me. Soon we were visited by the sounds of helicopter blades above. They promptly dropped down some cargo netting, and told us to get the giant secured in the netting for pickup. Then our larger helicopter for heavier loads, the Chinook, came over the top of the hills, like they were already coming. It was all very odd to say the least. Soon after we were done securing the load, the Chinook lowered a hook and we secured the line. And the giant lifted up, and was carried off fast. I did not see the giant again. But I will never forget what I saw that day.
In the report, all of the surviving soldiers confirmed that the red-haired fair-skinned giant had 6 fingers on each hand, and 6 toes on each foot. After they had submitted their after-action report, the soldiers all claimed that they were told by their top brass to rewrite it in a particular fashion, presumably to remove any mention of the giant creature. Shortly after the event, the story had quickly spread around the base. Base Commander Clemens states,
Around base, I started hearing this rumor about a special unit that was brought in to kill a giant in a cave. It was what they started calling the Kandahar giant. At first I didn't think anything of it. Then come to find out that the thing that they killed was actually 3 times the size of a normal man, and had extra digits on their hands, and extra digits on their feet, and bright red hair. Word had it, a special unit had come in and claimed the target within minutes of the original call into base. People claimed the story was confirmed by the Chinook pilot that brought the body in.
George Norrie interviewed the helicopter pilot that transported the Kandahar giant on Coast to Coast radio last year. The pilot said, and we quote, "It was a dead guy about 9 to 12 feet, laying in a fetal position on the pallet. He was around 1,100 pounds. The pilot went on to corroborate that the giant was fair-skinned, red-haired, and did have extra digits on his hands and feet, but could not say where he flew it to, or where it is today." Stories of giants in the Afghanistan mountains are not new to the Afghanistan people. They have been aware of these giants for thousands of years. They believe the creatures are from the biblical past, and claim they are cannibals who will eat anyone that comes near their caves. In the American Southwest, the Paiute tribe tells tales of war between their people and the Sitekar, a race of cannibalistic, cave-dwelling, red-haired giants. In Norse mythology, the Jotun are a giant race of cave-dwelling spirits with superhuman strength. The giants of ancient Greek and Roman history are strong, oversized, monstrous men, like the Cyclops, who were descended from the gods. The Christian Bible features not only the famous story of David versus the giant Goliath, but numerous tribes of giants, some strangely marked by 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. There is even the aptly titled Book of Giants, a fragmented, apocryphal text, found among the Dead Sea Scrolls that depicts the birth of giants, called the Nephilim, who walks the earth in the pre-flood world, when the sons of gods impregnated the daughters of man. Rather you believe in the Kandahar giant, or not. The fact is, giants have been a huge part of our history, since mankind's first days on planet Earth. And today more and more proof of this is being found by archaeologists every day. Around the turn of the 20th century, the New York Times, London Globe, and Scientific American all published articles reporting the discovery of gigantic human skeletons that had been discovered in a cave, concluding that the remains were sent to the Smithsonian for further study. But the fact that this evidence was never again seen or reported on, continues to elicit questions of whether the Smithsonian destroyed giant skeleton bones, in order to cover up an inconvenient anomaly, in the archaeological narrative, we've been told. So, what do you think about this? Are giants still living on Earth today? Are these the fallen angels' bastard offspring? Still lurking underground, terrorizing humans? Let us know what you think. We always want to know what you have to say. Leave us a comment, and make sure to like and share this video. Thank you for watching the WTF Files. God bless you all.
These are the WTF Files. Subscribe today, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Thank you for watching the WTF Files.
Researchers in Germany say they have proof that a prehistoric teenager had parents who were members of 2 different species of pre-humans. Scientists used a DNA from 90,000 years ago. It's in a bone fragment that was found in Siberia. The tests found that while the girl's mother was Neanderthal, her father came from a recently discovered species. It's the age-old story, really. Charlie D'Agata is following this story in London. Charlie, good morning.
Good morning to you, John. Now, we all know about the Neanderthals, but what about the Denisovans? Not so much, but we now know that they not only coexisted with the Neanderthals, but apparently got up to a lot more than that. He's the original guy from the wrong side of the tracks, or at least the other side of this Siberian cave, where the tiny fossils from his 13-year-old daughter were discovered. A Neanderthal Denisovan love child, a human hybrid. National Geographic science editor is Maya Wayhaus.
We've long known that these kind of mixing happen. There's been hints in both ancient and modern DNA that suggest that our ancient ancestors kind of interbred. But this is actually like catching it in the act.
The DNA was extracted from a quarter-sized bone fragment believed to have come from the teenager who died around 90,000 years ago. Genetic testing revealed a 50-50 split. Her mother was a Neanderthal who inhabited the western part of Eurasia, but her father was from that relatively unknown branch of the prehistoric family, the Denisova, named after those Siberian caves. The results prove that despite their genetic differences, members of the two groups mated and raised children. One of the study's authors, biologist Svante Pääbo, says that's huge.
I was extremely surprised. I was sure they had screwed something up in the laboratory for the longest time until they proved to me that they hadn't.
Unlike the Neanderthals, little is known about what the Denisovans look like. All we know about them was extracted by scientists from these tiny tooth and bone fragments. We do know they were genetically linked close enough with the Neanderthals so that rather than rivals, they were more like kissing cousins. Now, the author told us the fact that they were able to just stumble across a direct offspring suggests our ancestral cousins probably got up to a lot more hanky-panky than previously thought. Nora?
Hanky-panky from Charlie D'Agata in London. Thank you.
Thanks.
Always interesting to learn about our ancestral history.
Yeah, especially something as powerful as that.
And the Denisovans.
The Denisovans.
Yeah.
You have to go back to your 23andMe
I
and
know,
see if you have
exactly.
it. You have some Neanderthal, right?
Siberian in me, who knew?
2015, Southern Africa. In a region rich in ancient human fossils, a fantastic new discovery awaits. Deep underground. It's the first time paleoanthropologist Dr. Lee Berger has explored the Rising Star cave system.
I had this map I'd created of almost 800 cave sites that were all entryways into the underworld that I hadn't been in yet, and that was the mission.
Berger has heard rumors of human remains glimpsed down one of these passageways. It's challenging terrain for the scientific team.
To travel just 100 meters takes 20, 30, 40 minutes, depending on how fit you are and how good you are at squeezing through very tight spaces. It's a torturous journey.
The effort is worth it. They make an incredible find.
I was speechless. I mean, there I saw something I thought I would never see in my entire career. There was a clearly primitive hominid just lying there on the surface in the dirt.
The body is just the beginning. Berger and his team uncover bones from 15 separate skeletons, dating from the time humans first spread across Africa.
We've had everything from individuals just born, all the way to the extreme elderly and everybody in between.
But the bones are not human. They belong to a totally new species, Homo naledi.
Imagine if you're standing out here 300,000 years ago. A group of Homo naledi is from 500 meters. They look very little different from humans because they're walking on two legs. As they approach, you're going to start seeing things that are different. you're going to notice that the proportions aren't right, that the heads are small, that the shoulders are narrow. When they got about 50 meters from you, you'd realize that's not a human coming at you. There'd be no mistaking.
Naledi now joined the ranks of at least 3 other human-like species that existed in parallel to Homo sapiens 300,000 years ago. Exhibited here in the National Museum of Natural History.
We used to see human evolutionary history as that march of progress from ape-like to human beings. Instead, what we've learned is that there were contemporaries. Our evolutionary tree is branching and diverse, like the evolutionary trees of almost all other organisms on Earth.
But if all these human-like competitors once shared our planet, why are we the only ones left?